This is my podcast, Rediscover. In today's episode, I say goodbye to Mr. Perfect and see what lessons we can learn from him or me or what happened in that relationship. Stay tuned. This is Beth Rosebrough. Welcome to Rediscover. So, full disclosure, I already recorded this episode once today and decided to redo it. The reason was because I had recorded the whole thing about the last chapter of Mr. Perfect, and I thought, it was just too negative. I don't want to spend my time here bashing on some guy that did me wrong, and I'd rather focus on what I learned and what I can pass along. I certainly don't have it all figured out, as it will become very obvious quickly here. So I hope I can just pass this along, and you can learn from my mistakes, and hope it will be somehow instructive. So Mr. Perfect is gone. He decided to check out after we saw each other 3 days in a row. I was going to say spent 3 days together, but that's not how it works. That's not how I roll. We went out to dinner on Friday, and that Friday was supposed to be our last dinner together, and then we were going to break up. So that was a really interesting dinner to get ready for. I was telling my friends, I'm getting dressed for a breakup dinner. What do you wear to a breakup dinner? Do you wear your old clothes and kind of be kind of sloppy and come in with your pajamas and your slippers? I mean, that was one alternative. The other alternative was dressing up, in a real, cute outfit so that he could remember what he was going to be missing. So that's the option that I opted for, and that was really fun. So I went in looking my best. We had dinner, and it was very awkward, and I ordered an appetizer and an entree and a dessert because I figured it was either go big or go home. So it was just very awkward. He kept up the conversation nicely, though, I have to say. At the end of the dinner, finally, I'm like, somebody's got to say this. I said, so is this the last time we're going to see each other? And he started out with, well, we don't really get along and blah, 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 blah. So I said, well, this is kind of like where the rubber hits the road here. This is the kind of thing that we were talking about when we ran into each other last weekend at the nail salon. You can't just run away every time things get a little uncomfortable. I mean, you can if you want to, but if you want to actually have a relationship and make something out of this, then you can't do that. I don't know if I put it exactly that plainly. And there had been other things that had ensued during the week. I hadn't seen him all week. I guess he kind of listened to me and changed his mind. And so then he said, well, we were going to have plans for, Saturday night. That was like one of the original plans. But anyway, so I was kind of shocked because I thought, I thought this was going to be our last dinner, and I didn't expect for him to want to see me 2 times in a row, because the last time he did that before Christmas, that's when he bolted. But anyway, so I did see him Saturday night. He brought dinner over to the house, and that was nice. And then he said, well, what about tomorrow? I was thinking I'd come tomorrow too. I'm like, what? I was shocked. And I should have just said no, because 2 nights, I know that was a lot for him to handle, because he's used to living his single life and he likes it. But anyway, I thought, well, let's just see what happens. And so he came over on Sunday night, and he wasn't feeling good, and he actually left earlier than what he had expected to. So the next morning, I didn't get a good morning text, which I usually did at some point during the morning from him. About lunchtime, I think I got a text and it was long. Well, maybe it was a little bit before lunchtime. And I remember I was in the park walking with my friend and it came through and I was like, uh-oh. I just knew this wasn't going to be good. And sure enough, he was breaking up with me. He said he went home and he prayed about it and something else, I don't know. And he had to decide whether to stay with me or to break up with me. And he decided to break up with me. So Mr. Perfect flamed out. So the moral of this story is all that glitters is not gold, because yes, he checked all my boxes and he was exactly what I had prayed for, except for the biggest box, which is the commitment box. So that wasn't his style. So, and he gave me warning signs. I just chose not to heed them. And also when he had asked, okay, so the week before, I didn't listen to my inner voice, and here's what happened. The week before the Monday through Thursday, I didn't see him. And he was saying that Friday was going to be our last dinner, and then that was our break, and then we were going to break up. Okay, so I thought, well, all right, if we're going to break up, I might as well see what else I can dig up. So I went on a different dating site, tried something new, and got myself 3 dates for the weekend. I had a lunch date, a dinner date, and then actually a lunch date on Monday. And I was working on a Sunday date. When you first get on these dating sites, there's a lot of interest, and it totally slacks off after that, because I don't think they put your picture up there as much. But that's like another story that I'll get to next time. I think when I'm going to sort of do a wrap up of the points made during my conversations with Julie. But anyway, so when I saw him on Friday, we were talking about being on dating apps, and I had said I'd gotten off the one that I had met him on. And I was like, I'm off that app. I'm not on there. And he said, well, you don't have to talk to me about that. I trust you. Okay. Well, I better focus. So I contacted those 3 dates that I had and told them I couldn't see them that weekend. I told them I couldn't see them, just period. And as I was doing that, I remember thinking to myself, or these thoughts kept coming to my head, don't do this. Don't do this. Don't cancel these dates. Don't put these people off. This is not a good idea. And I should have listened to that, but I kept thinking, no, I have to focus. Like it's the right thing to do. That's not really fair to him. He seems like he's really into it and he's really trying. And so I went ahead and canceled those. And there was one guy I really liked. I thought he seemed really great, because I had, already in my head been like, okay, this is it. So we're going to break up. So, just on to the next, because you can't, keep crying over. I don't cry over them, but you can't, it's an expression. You can't, keep, as the saying goes, crying over spilled milk. It's done. Time to move on. You can't take it all too seriously at the beginning, because, it's just not good for your mental health. That's another learned lesson here. So, and you really need to pay attention to red flags. So when he sent me that breakup text on Monday, and I was with my friend at the park, I was so mad. I was not so mad that he was breaking up with me, because he was hard to get along with. Okay. Which was, not his fault. It was my fault. He told me who he was, and I just kept trying because he seemed so perfect for me. But I'm sorry. So my text messages come through on my computer. So anyway, let's stop for a second. I was really mad at myself when I got that text, more than I was upset with him, because I wasn't really surprised. He told me who he was. I knew who he was. 3 nights in a row was going to be too much for him. I knew he was going to bolt. I wasn't surprised at all when I got that text message. Oh, okay, that's not true. I was a little surprised, but I was mostly surprised because I felt like I had been led on. Like, if you're not really that interested, why were you here 3 days in a row? So, but people do weird stuff. So, but anyway, I was really mad at myself because of these three nice guys that I had now cut off. But the guy I was really most interested in, that seemed really stable. He was ex-military, had a cool job at a nonprofit. I couldn't think of that word for a second. All I could think of was PBS. Anyway, I did still have his contact information. The other ones, I didn't have their contact information anymore. So I texted him and apologized and tried to reschedule. And he was like, no. And I've never heard from him since. Darn it. Anyway, he also had a cool name. But anyhow, so, Mr. Perfect he flamed out like a lot of them do. And isn't it interesting to watch this relationship unfold, peak, and then flame out? I just think it's so interesting the way it all happens and how different people are, and yet somehow kind of predictable how they are. But, the thing was, it was really kind of my fault because he told me who he was. One time he told me about how guys work. And I should have been, when he told me that, I remember thinking, and I should have paid attention and just been like, yeah, okay, well, that's good. It's been nice knowing you. But he told me that, especially with online guys, but maybe not even with that, but mostly because he said, when you get a girl, to start communicating with you, then you know that you've got her hooked. And then you also know that after a few dates, then, you're going to get what you want from her. Ew. I don't know if that's really the way all guys work, but that's what he told me. So I assume that's the way he works. And he's a good looking guy. And so maybe that is the way it works for him, that it's that easy. Another red flag was that he wouldn't get off the dating app, and he wouldn't give me a real good reason why. So I should have paid attention to that. But, he said, well, I am on it, but I'm not using it. Well, then get off of it. But he wouldn't. So something, he had plans for the future. And that was my bad, that I didn't take that red flag for what it was and just be like, yeah, because I don't do that for other guys. If we've dated enough, or if he seems like he just wants me to date him, then I expect for him just to date me. But it generally doesn't even get that far, as you can see now. So I obviously don't know the secrets of how to make something long-term that seems like it's not that great from the beginning. So now I've learned to, as you can see, fire fast. Boom, boom, boom. That except for this man, because he seemed perfect, otherwise I fire fast. I used to put up with a whole lot of bad behavior, but I don't anymore. When they start giving me signs like this guy, for instance, I had it blocked, remember? And then when he came around, I was like, that's really such a coincidence. Maybe I should go ahead with this. But, before that was like, you're going to flake out on me. You're going to be a runner. No, done. I'm not interested in that. Can you imagine a lifetime of that kind of behavior? I can, because I lived with that kind of behavior for 40 years, and I sure as heck don't want to do it again. So him bolting this time actually did me a favor and saved me from wasting any more time and possibly ending up with someone was a repeat of unfortunate experiences during my marriage. But I think the other thing to learn is that as I said, all that glitters is not gold. Even though he seemed perfect, I think the lesson here that I was supposed to learn is that I have to really look beyond the obvious and the superficial and look at someone's heart. Okay. And trust me, he was a nice guy. He seemed sincere, but he just had some other stuff going on. And I don't know exactly. Let me see a nice way to put this. I don't know how much of it was premeditated or kind of his line, or how much of it was from, things that had happened to him in the past. I don't know. But in any case, at this point, it doesn't really matter, because if they act out a certain way, then you don't want to accept unacceptable behavior. And if it's a pattern, then, it's a no-go. So, and the other way to put all that glitters is not gold is, if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck and it walks like a duck, it's a duck. So goodbye, Mr. Perfect. It was fun while it lasted. In today's episode, we talked about Mr. Perfect and said goodbye to him. All that glitters is not gold. I think that's the final conclusion. In our next episode, I'll be talking about some observations from the Garden of Gethsemane. See you then. This is Mary Beth Rosebrough, and this is Rediscover.